and so if you're interested, they're going to be leaving around 11:15. You can go with them or on your own. So I'm going to start by reading I'm going to read the proclamation, only the last line. So we're going to have these young ladies do it. So let's start with the City of Rochester Proclamation. And if you would say your name into the microphone, and then I'll have you read the first two whereas.
My name is Abby, and it says, on January 10th, 1918, a constitutional amendment allowing women's suffrage was passed by the United States House, and on June 4th, 1919, the United States Senate passed the 19th Amendment and sent it out to the states for ratification. My name is Amber. On September 8th, 1990, Minnesota ratified the 19th Amendment to the United States Constitution, which would grant national suffrage to women, and Minnesota's ratification and the 15th state paved the way for other states to ratify the 19th Amendment. My name is Annika, and September 8th, 2019 marks the 100th anniversary of Minnesota's ratification of the 19th Amendment, and communities across the state are celebrating the 19th Amendment and the date of Minnesota's ratification.
Now therefore I, Kim Norton, Mayor of the City of Rochester, do hereby proclaim the week of September 8th through 14th, 2019 as Women's Suffrage Ratification Centennial Day. And we encourage residents to commemorate this day as the centennial of Minnesota's ratification of the 19th Amendment and engage and participate in suffrage centennial programs and activities in honor of the largest single-day expansion of voting rights in our nation. In witness whereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused the corporate seal of the City of Rochester to be affixed this 8th day of September 2019. And I have to sign it. Participating in this. I do have a couple people who would like to speak. I think I will start by just saying, I'm going to read a quote from Abigail Adams. So this goes way back. Abigail Adams, in a letter to her husband, said, remember the ladies. If particular care and attention is not paid to the ladies, we are determined to foment a rebellion and will not hold ourselves bound by any laws in which we have no voice or representation. Yeah, that's very well. Abigail Adams is actually, people always ask me, who is your idol or who do you idolize? I never had anybody, and as a child, Abigail Adams is who I read about. I would walk to I'm a big branch library fan, so I would walk to my branch library and I would check out books about Abigail Adams and read them. And I think as I look back, it probably did give me a lot of, a lot of the oomph that I have about doing right things and being a leader. And I hadn't recognized it until I grew up. So hopefully you ladies too will find those people that you can draw, ambition and leadership skills from in the years to come. So I really appreciate being here. The other thing that I found in reading Minnesota's history, which I think you'll hear about here in just a minute, that was particularly meaningful to me was in 1875, during the middle of this movement, Minnesotans gave women the right to vote in school board elections. Not other elections, just school board elections. And we have with us here 3 female school board members. In our history, we were allowed to vote for school board because I think they recognized that women truly cared about education and eventually and get us that right. So I thought that was pretty nice. I'm going to let some people speak here. First, we have one of our Girl Scouts. And I'm letting them introduce themselves, and I'm going to, she's going to give a little presentation, and then we're going to have Amy Cockett, and then we have a couple of our elected leaders want to say a few words too. So I'm just going to
Thank you so much. My name is Sarah Strauss. 100 years ago today, women across Minnesota were granted the right to vote. But as we all know, this did not happen on its own. It took 71 years of protest and lobbying from the Seneca Falls Convention to the ratification of the 19th Amendment, the reason we are all standing here today. In 1920, 8 million women were allowed to vote for the very first time. This was due to the exceptional work of women such as Elizabeth Cady Stanton, Susan B. Anthony, and Hallie Quinn Brown. Women began the 20th century by not being allowed to vote or even own property, and ended with having had more than 300 women serve in Congress. The work they accomplished was monumental, but it's not yet done. We gained the right to vote, a huge milestone, let it not be underappreciated, but we still have so far to go until the equality these great women work towards is our reality. According to Business Insider, in the same job, the average woman in the U.S. makes only 80.7% of a man's dollar. This gap grows even more when looking at women of color. Similarly, according to a study done by Pompeu Fabre University, with the same qualifications, women are only 30% less likely to be hired than their male counterparts. There are so many more examples of the inequality still present in our day and age, and it is our job to continue to fight for equal rights and equity in our homes, workplaces, and communities. Because, as Ban Ki-moon said, achieving gender equality requires the engagement of women and men, girls and boys. It is everyone's responsibility. Together, we can continue the work we are celebrating here today.
Thank you so much. And next, I'd like to, I can't introduce my friend. I have to introduce Mrs. George Allen, a.k.a. Amy Cockett, who's going to just give a little bit about Minnesota's important place in history. Ms. Allen. Mrs.
I'm acting Emma Potter Allen. This is George Allen this morning. She was one of the suffragists who lived in Rochester. And 100 years ago today, she was president of the Minnesota Federation of Women's Clubs, which women's clubs were a big deal in the early 1900s. She sent out more than 200 invitations to women leaders that she knew around the state in order to get over 1,000 women to attend 100 years ago today the passage and special session of the 19th Amendment in the Minnesota legislature. They filled the galleries, they surrounded the Capitol with chants, and yellow was their color, by the way, the yellow rose. So there were all kinds of yellow out there. And after that, they served a chicken dinner.
So we have a really wonderful contingency of elected leaders here. And Amy, if you need to sneak out to head to the cities, I know you're doing a pickup of some folks.
Anybody who needs a ride, I still have one seat.
If anybody wants to go to the Twin Cities with Amy, follow her out the door. She has room for one. So follow her close. Okay. We do have some wonderful elected leaders. And all of us, we have some organizations here today too, along with the Girl Scouts. We have representation from a number of women's groups. So I want to recognize that I know we have AUW members. Raise your hand, got a few of those. League of Women Voters members, some of the same. Girl Scouts, we have a lot of those. What other groups do we have here? American Association of Business Women. There might be someone here from that group as well. So we do have a number of groups, but as I mentioned, we have a number of very distinguished women leaders in this community that some of them were my colleagues, some of them have been mentors and role models for me, and others I'm just so darn proud of. We came along together in this journey. So I'm going to ask those that would like to speak just briefly to do so. and Representative Tina Liebling, and my former roommate.
Well, thank you, everybody. I just couldn't miss the opportunity. I am Tina Liebling. I'm the state representative from this area. And Mayor Norton served with me for 10 years in the Minnesota legislature. As she said, we were roommates during that time. And I just couldn't let the occasion pass without saying how proud I am to be here today and that Rochester has its first female mayor. Of 100 years of women having the vote, we have finally reached that moment. And I know from my work at the legislature, and I know that my fellow, if that's the right word, fellow elected female leaders, we'll have to find another word for that, sister elected leaders all know, and many of you know, that when women are involved, when women are in leadership positions, things go better. Yes, they do. I also want to say, Mayor Norton reminded me when she was talking about who she looked to as a mentor. When I was a young girl, I used to read about Elizabeth Blackwell. Does anybody know who that is? Any of the young people know who that is? Who is that? Who's Elizabeth Blackwell?
She was the first female doctor.
That's right, the first female doctor. So I read about her, and I was inspired by her. So it is so important to see yourself in different ways, for girls to see all the possibilities that really are open to us, even if we have to struggle a little bit harder to get there. So I'm very, very proud to be here today. Thank you, Mayor Norton.
Thank you for that. And we should mention Representative Liebling, like myself, when we ran for office and were elected, we're the first women in our seats to be elected. So we also had first at a different time, even if it wasn't right to vote for that particular seat. And then here we have, I always call her Senator, but Commissioner Sheila Cascaden, who was a role model and has been a mentor to me, even though we're about the same age, but she's been in leadership a little bit longer than I have, and I'm just so thrilled that you're here and would ask you to say a few words.
I hadn't prepared. I actually was going to talk about first. I was going to talk about Rochester had the act of the women's organization to get the amendment passed, which is really commendable. But did you know we also had the first woman senator elected to the Minnesota Senate, and that was my predecessor, Nancy Gravis. And that didn't happen until 1976. And then it took until, what was the first year you were elected? I don't remember. First, 2006 into the House for Tina and for Kim. So 2004, first woman into those seats, and now the first woman mayor. And so the reality is that women are in leadership positions in our community, and we need more women into leadership positions. We have a great school board contingent of lots of women on the school board, but women often need to be asked to run. So the thing that I want to say to each of you young ladies, and to every woman and man in this room, when you see a woman with leadership potential, ask her to run for office. I would guess, I think Mayor Norton's the exception, but every one of us was asked to run by people in our community. I was asked to run. I never would have run if people hadn't asked me to run. They asked me to run for the Senate, and when I left the Senate, a few years later, I was asked to run for the county board. I wouldn't have done that on my own. And I'm a pretty strong woman. I can be a force to be reckoned with. But I really think I want you to know that you have the power to recruit women to run for office. And we need you to do that. We have an election year next year. There's going to be a lot of seats open for election at the local level, the soil and water conservation, the school board, the county board, the city council, the legislature. We need you to be the recruiting arm to talk to really good women and encourage them to run. And young ladies, put that in your future. Maybe someday you would like to stand here and be the mayor of Rochester, or the senator from Rochester, or the member of the House from Rochester. It's in your grasp, it's in your power. It can be your dream as well. So thank you, everyone, and thank you, Mayor, for putting this together today.
So thank you for all you've done. we have school board members here. We have 4 of our wonderful female school board members here, and I'm going to ask them to just introduce themselves, and then if you would like to say just a brief statement, I will allow you all to do that, but I want people to know. And I also would say we have Lisa Clark, I see in the back, who's head of DMC, who is a leader in her own right, and we have to recognize not only, and I'm sure there's others in here that I'm not seeing, who are leaders in this community in different ways, may not be elected, but you may be a CEO, you may head a department, you may run an office. Those are all leadership positions, and even, whether it be nonprofit, that's all leadership. It doesn't have to be the mayor, so don't think that's it, or be a house member. That's not it. There's lots you can do. So I'm going to ask each of the school board members to introduce themselves. Would you like to come up?
My name is Julie Workman, and I was first elected to the school board in 2010. And one of the things that has really struck me, especially in working with some of these wonderful leaders up here, is that women often second guess themselves, and they say, am I good enough? Do I know enough? Can I do this job? Whereas men will say, hey, what the heck, let's do it. So women, what the heck, let's do it.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Deborah Seelinger, and I've been on the school board since 2011. I'm so proud and happy to be with my friends and colleagues up here. And what I like to talk about as a Rochester school board member, and I put on my other hat of Minnesota PTA, is that I am so proud that our former state PTA president, Kim Norton, is now the first woman mayor of Rochester, Minnesota. And so thank you to my colleagues, and thank you for everyone for showing up today.
Good morning, I'm Kathy Nathan, and I took my school board seat just this January. And I think what a lot of you, especially you young people, are hearing is that the spark started for a lot of us early. And obviously there's an age limit for when you can run for office, but there's no age limit as to when you can get involved. I think at the city council meeting this week, we had such a great example of our youth coming to talk about climate issues in Rochester. And we want to see your faces at city council meetings, we want to see them at school board meetings, we want to see them at county meetings, because you live in our community. You're members of our community. And your input is just as important as anybody else's. And I see at the front of those groups that are coming to our public meetings, the faces of young women leading the way. So keep leading the way, keep bringing your friends. We want to see you. And this is a great celebration today to be with all of you. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Melissa Amundsen, and this is my first year on the school board, and I have no words of wisdom, but I want to express appreciation to all of the women and men who work so hard, both those who got the vote in the first place, those who work in politics and on people's campaigns, and all of the good things in between, all the way up to today, because it's hard work, and sometimes leadership is just about being willing to do the hard work.
Thank you. So we are going to wrap up here in just a minute, and I would like to say I was a little disappointed not seeing our male leaders here, because I would have introduced them as well, but I do want to thank the men in the room, because that ratification that happened 100 years ago happened before women were in office. It happened because men recognized that women had something to offer and made a really hard vote, and it took a while to get it across the country and to recognize women. So it's not being for women is not being against men. And I also wanted to say I chuckle a little bit. Sheila talks about asking, and it is very important to ask people to do leadership roles. The reason I wasn't asked is because I had been helping men get elected for a long time, and it dawned on me that I knew everything that they knew, and why didn't I just run? So it wasn't that I was asked, because I'm not involved. So anyway, I just want to thank you all for being here today. There is some bunny cake and coffee and juice out there, and I just encourage you to continue to support young women and leaders moving ahead, and this is a whole week of celebration, so put it out there on social media. Let people know 100 years of women's rights to vote. Thank you so much for being here.